Well, hello there, welcome back to the channel. Beautiful day. I'm out looking at some particular locations and I want to talk to you about that in a minute. But firstly, I've been delivering around the district some of my 2026 Nightscape images calendars, and here we have one. I'm really proud of these. In fact, they're selling like hotcakes. I mean, it's, what is it, September, and I don't have a whole lot of these left, so I know that once I start advertising them here, well, there probably won't be any left anywhere near Christmas time. So if you want one, just follow the link in the description down below. But I want to talk to you today about certain aspect of nightscape photography that I think is really important. So in today's video, I want to talk about the fact that shooting nightscape photography is a lot different to shooting daytime landscape photography. And you know, a lot of people I think get confused and think, oh, well, it's just shooting landscapes at night. Well, sometimes it is that, but there are many occasions where things aren't quite so simple. You know, the easiest nightscape image to shoot is when we have a foreground subject that is clearly defined, or silhouetted if you like, against a beautiful night sky. And you can easily see all of the stars in the sky, and you can see whatever that foreground subject is. It might be a tree, might be buildings, could be landscape, mountains, whatever. That is the easiest nightscape image to shoot, and we all shoot those. Why wouldn't we? Because it's beautiful. But today I want to show you some different ways of shooting subject matter that doesn't have it quite so easy. And so I'm here to show you my first subject, which is this beautiful old stone ruin over behind me, which I shot here a little while ago. So let's go and have a look at this one. So if you have a look at this building behind me, you can clearly see that it is not your standard run-of-the-mill subject to shoot for a nightscape image. And why is that? Well, it's obvious. It's full of trees in the background. So how would you shoot this? Now, I can tell you, this is on a pretty major road, and I travel this road quite a bit, and I've looked at this building over the years and thought, what a great little subject for a nightscape. But I didn't shoot here for the obvious reason. There's hardly any sky in the background to actually shoot. So what is it that makes this subject usable as a nightscape image? And if you were here during the daytime, like now, it doesn't matter, because the sky is totally irrelevant unless there's big storm clouds or something like that behind the building, and even then they'd be somewhat blotted out by the trees. So if I'm shooting here in the daytime, you know, depending on the light situation, it's not that hard to shoot, because I can set my camera up to get it to look really nice, and the foreground is obviously the feature here. Now at nighttime, it's completely different to that, because if I try and shoot this subject at night, all I'm going to get is a sky which is always brighter than the foreground, and a silhouette of trees, and I can't even see the building. So what is the difference? Well, you know, I think it's quite obvious really. The difference is how you light this subject. So that's what I did. I came here one night and I thought to myself, okay, I've got to light the foreground here. And it did present a few challenges. For example, there's a few posts at the front here, which I didn't really want to highlight. But all in all, it's not a bad subject to light, because it's run down, it's rusty, it's got rustic old bricks and beautiful stonework, which always looks good when you apply a little bit of light to the subject. So if you're going to shoot a subject like this at night that is completely surrounded by trees, you can isolate the subject just by applying some light to it. Now, the methodology can vary, and it probably doesn't really matter. I mean, you could use low-level lighting here, where you might have a light on a stand down there and another one down this way, as long as it covers the areas. Now, for me, I prefer the light painting, or what I call my fine art light painting method, for something like this. And that's only because there's a lot of nooks and crannies where the light can't get into easily. So by applying more shots with light in these corners, even sometimes putting a light inside the building makes a big difference. And so the first thing you notice when you apply light to the building in this case, is that the building glows and it stands out like anything from the background trees. And that is exactly the reason that we want to shoot it at night, because we want it to stand out from the background. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what about the stars and what about the night sky? Well, to be honest, that's almost irrelevant. I mean, the stars are there. And the other thing I did notice, because I shot this with a 14mm lens, camera was quite close and it showed a lot of real estate. You can see a heap of stars, many, many more than I could see with my naked eye. So the sky does still stand out. Would I be shooting a big tracked Milky Way galactic core? No, this is the wrong subject for that. You know, would I be shooting something, even an aurora or something like that? It would have to be a massive aurora to even see it through all of those trees. So, you know, my focus is on the foreground. And as you know, with me, my focus is always on the foreground. All right, so over here behind me, in this very obscure location, there is a subject that I found a few years ago, and I want to take you back there and show you what it is. It is quite remarkable. Okay, so this is actually quite embarrassing because I have just walked what seems like hundreds and hundreds of meters around this area and I cannot find the old car that I was looking for. Now, either I'm in the wrong spot, which I don't think is the case, or it's been moved since I was here. There's no trace of an old car, which is what I've been looking for here. And so I've only got one option here, and that is to show you some footage that I took the last time I was here, and that was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, showing you the old car. But this car was, I don't even know how I found it out here because it's in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It was hidden under a tree and there was bushes and prickle bushes growing all the way through it. And I initially thought this could not make a good nightscape. But at the time it was later in the year and the Milky Way galactic core was setting down in the west. And I thought if I get really close to the car, use a wide angle lens like a 14mm lens, I can probably capture the car really close up and just have a thin sliver of the Milky Way underneath the trees that were overhanging. And that's exactly what I did. So I can't believe that I cannot find that out here. Surely they wouldn't take the car body. It was just an old, rusty old, oh man, how does this stuff happen? Anyway, I'll show you the image and you'll see what I mean. It was totally surrounded by trees, foliage and otherwise, but because of the lighting that I applied to this subject, it just came alive. Well, that sure was embarrassing. I don't think I've ever lost a subject before in my travels around the landscape. So all I can say is let's move on to the next location. All right, so continuing on my theme of subject matter that is pretty much covered by dense foliage, bush, trees and everything else. You can see in the background here. So I found this old boiler many, many years ago. Now I must confess, it's probably 10 years ago when I shot this. And I think you'll probably find that in the final image when I show it to you, I don't know if all these trees were actually here then, but there was a lot of trees in the background. And to be honest, there's hardly any sky visible back there. So my emphasis is never going to be on the sky for a photograph like this. I'm always going to be placing all of my emphasis on the foreground. I can remember getting nice and close to this little brick, I don't know what it is, a little tunnel or something, and lighting it up. And because I applied light to little details like this, it just came alive, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Now, you would never stop here and think there is a nightscape image to be had here, but there is. And this is what I'm trying to get across in this video. We've just got to keep looking for whatever possibilities there are out there to shoot. Now, I know that you've seen me here at this location countless times, but I had to come back here because I wanted to show you this specific composition that I set up, and I wanted to feature the silos, of course, and the sky behind the silos, but the real star of this image was the reflection here in the water. Now, when I shot this, there was a whole lot more water than there is here today. So it had been raining, different time of year completely. But you know, when I saw that, I thought to myself, I've got to get this shot. And I got the camera right down low here, with the majority of the image was the foreground. And all I had to do was put a bit of light on those silos, and they reflected beautifully in the water here. Now, as far as the technicalities of this photograph, it was very simple. In fact, there's a video that highlighted that night elsewhere on my channel, but it was just a 2-shot focus stack. One image for the background and the silos, and to be honest, most of the shot, and the other was just the extreme close-ups, which I had the camera right down about here facing there, so I had to focus on this close little bit of grass and dirt and so forth, and I just did a tiny little bit of light painting on that as well. This photo is still one of my all-time favorites that I've ever shot. So obviously I'm trying to get us to think outside the square. There was no Milky Way galactic core in this shot at all. It was just stars, whatever was up there, a little bit of wispy cloud. And I was really happy with that, because we so often get fixated on galactic core or something that's got heaps of hydrogen alpha or something like that. It does not have to always be that way. So I just wanted to feature the reflection and give it some mood and drama, and I think that's really important. So that's what this video is all about. It's trying to think, how can I do something a little bit different, even though sometimes conditions aren't exactly what we originally thought. And this one just stood out to me. I didn't come here to shoot that. I just saw it when I was on location. All right, so while I'm here in this district, I'm going to go and see my good friend Tony, who lives just down there. He actually caretakes this whole complex here. So if anyone comes along here, pretty much day or night, you'll get the little motorbike coming across, and that'll be Tony checking to see what's going on here. Oh, geez, it's getting windy. I better get moving. I've got to give Tony a calendar because he looks after me big time. So our final stop is here at these very interesting subjects. Again, absolutely surrounded by trees. And when I first saw these, well, years ago, they've always stood out as a great photographic subject. Unfortunately, there's graffiti on them. I hate graffiti, vandalism. It's just really distasteful, but it is still a massive structure, and there's actually 2 of them here. I'm going to show you both of them and talk you through my mindset when I was shooting these 2 subjects. Now, this is a gold mining district, and this is what they call a drag line. I don't really know what a drag line does, but it looks like a great big crane, and it obviously lifts things. It's on track, so it went forward and backwards, and it's also got a turntable. So it's a massive machine, and of course all the kids jumping all over these things, they're good fun. So from this angle, which is the angle I shot it from, you can see there's hardly any sky. It's just all trees in the background. So once again, because there's so many trees, you can't really do ambient long exposure foregrounds or anything like that because it just doesn't stand out enough. So the lighting, the light painting is what makes it stand out. And it's because it's so big, it's a big job to actually light the thing up. But I was pretty happy with that. The Milky Way actually was over that side of the sky, but really you couldn't see it. So the sky is just like a background layer in the canvas, if you like. And I don't mind that sometimes. Like I've been talking about, that we need to expand our horizons, look at some of this subject matter that most of the time we just walk straight past and just see what we can do with it. Wow, this thing is absolutely unreal. It's huge. Now I've just got to get down without a disaster happening. So this is the second machine that's on this location, and this is a dredge. So what this thing does, it floats when there's water in there, and it just dredges the ground, I guess, to dig up the gold. It's big, huge. And at the moment there's a lot of water in there. But I came here a number of years ago and there was hardly any water, and it was easier to get into the area. I'll take you over there and show you, but because there's so much water, it's a bit hard to get really, really close. All right, so this is the angle that I was shooting up. And the reason I wanted to be down here was because the Milky Way galactic core actually rose up in that small gap up there between the trees. So as I said before, there's more water here today, but I was able to get my camera down a little bit closer, and that made me able to get the angle I wanted, and it also made it easy to get closer so I could actually light paint the structure. Now it's huge. So light painting something that big is not a simple thing. I did it with my fine art method, but it was pretty basic because there was too much water over this side. I couldn't even get over that side of it. So I had to sort of do it from this side and around the front a little bit. But I was pretty happy with that. But once again, I was lucky in this case because I did have that little tiny window of where the Milky Way was able to sit there in the background. And look, I think that one was okay. I'll explain a little bit more about my mindset in a minute, but I'll show you the images of both of these items. So there you go. That's about all I want to show to you today, except in a moment, hang around, because I'm going to show you some more images that I haven't covered specifically in this video, but that I've taken over the years, sort of illustrating my point of today's video, and that is that even if there are trees and conditions that don't necessarily suit Milky Way photography, it is still possible to get some absolutely amazing nightscape images. And that's what I am more than likely looking for these days. And the other thing I want to make point of here is that every single one of the images that I've showed you today have just had single background images, just one shot of the night sky, and sometimes one of the foreground, sometimes two or three, depending on the subject, but they have been fairly simple. There's no tracking or anything like that to sort of interfere and get technically in the way. So anyway, don't forget, I've got plenty of calendars at the moment, but they are not going to last. And enjoy the rest of these images, and I'll see you guys in the next video.